everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to do a little painting. So I thought I'd do it in real time just to show you the hot mess that occurs before the beautiful finished product. So I thought, because it's nice for you to see, because there is a really ugly stage to painting, and the way that I paint is really chaotic to start with. So I just thought, you know what, let's just show you what I'm doing. So the paints I'm using today is acrylic gouache, and they are these ones, the Turner Colourworks ones. I also use the Holbein acrylic gouache as well. There's not much difference in them, to be honest. I might sway a little bit towards liking the Holbeins a little bit more, but honestly you can barely tell a difference. These are really nice for a bit of a cheaper alternative to the Holbeins. But yeah, I'm going to paint this. So I very quickly sketched this out last night, and it's on the Artist Trading Card watercolour paper by Strathmore. So these are only 2.5 by 3.5 inches big, so I'm hoping we'll be able to get it all finished on this video, but if not, we don't. But yeah, my stamp's just arrived. I've got a little stamp so I can stamp the back of the cards. Look, how cute is that? It's not a bit as detailed as it is on my channel, but you're not going to get that really from a stamp. But I like that. So let's get in. I'm going to start with the water, and I'm going to start with the water, or I might start with the path around the water. No, I'll start with the water, then I'll start with the path around the water, because then I'm going to have some sort of trees and bushes, because this looks like my local pond where I take the kids to feed the ducks, and there's all sort of shrubs and bushes that sort of come over the pond. There's just a few marks on, but the paint will cover it up. And then I thought we would do this duck and these little ducklings. Now the initial sketch looks a bit like ugh, but hopefully it'll look a bit better when I've done. Now this type of paintings that I do, I don't go for realism. We sort of go for more of an impressionistic design. So if I show you some of my other ones, we sort of go for this, where we're sort of, yeah, you get the idea. We sort of go for this sort of style of paintings. So it's gonna, you know, it's not gonna be a realistic looking pond, but let's get in on here, maybe over there. If it's too close, I will zoom out again. It might be a little bit close actually. I'm just thinking, because I'm going to be hitting the camera with my paintbrush. So I use a whole mix of different paintbrushes. I've got some that Dale Arena sent me. Now these ones are okay. These ones came with one of the sets that they did, but they've also got some blue handled ones which they sent me, which are atrocious. These blue handled ones are absolutely horrible. They're the cheapest, horrible, nastiest thing. Honestly, I could not work with them. These ones are okay. So they obviously have different ranges of brushes in the collections. This one's alright. So sometimes I use these. I also, this is a favourite of mine, size 2 silver black velvet, but these are your more pricier ones. And then I do have some of the Fumui brushes, which are really nice as well. So these are the Fumui ones. Now most people's have the actual lettering on there, the brand name Fumui, but when mine came they didn't have it on, they just have the size of the brushes, but they are Fumui, those ones. So should we start? I think I'll start with the Dale Arena brush for the first initial colouring in of this pond. So I'm going to go with my darkest shade, and my darkest shade is like a I'll show you all the colours I've got in my palette. So I've got my palette here. This sort of darkest blue is a Perusian blue, and then I've got these other blues surrounding it, and then I've got browns for the path, greens for the shrubberies, but I've sort of popped it all on there. So I'm just going to start off by filling in the initial little pond. So I thought it'd be good to get this in first. I might need my smaller brush to get around those ducks. I thought it'd be best to get this in first, and then if we want any shrubbery sort of leaning over the pond, we can then put that in over the top. I thought this would be a really cute one to do. Put that in. So the path that goes around this pond where we visit is kind of a sort of it's kind of a concrete path, but it can be a bit stony in places. So I'm just gonna try and mimic that. Right, I'm going to switch to my smaller brush just to get in between them ducks because I don't want to go over my little duckies. So let's switch to the smaller silver brush. If you're getting so much creaking, my chair keeps bashing against the table. Let's not breathe while we're going between these bits. So it's up to you with something like this. You can either, you know, blend all the other colours into the water whilst it's all wet, or you can put one layer down, wait for it to dry and sort of put your other details in on top, which is what I tend to do. I kind of, when I try to blend it when it's all wet, I kind of end up with a blinking hot mess, I'm not gonna lie. I do it sometimes for like mainly backgrounds like sunsets or skies, things like that, but anything like this I prefer to put one block colour down, mainly my darkest colour first, and then I will go in with the lighter colours on top. So yeah, there we go, we managed to get round the ducks. I might just have to, when I go in with the colour of the beak, I might just have to pull that one's beak out a little bit more because it looks like it's got a little bit shortened. I may have just gone over it a little bit. So I'm going to do the path next, just while we let that dry for a little bit. I'm just going to pop in the initial base of the path. So I've picked out a brown, but I'm adding some black to it. I'll just show you what I've done. So I picked out this brown, but I've added a bit of black to it so we get this really quite muddied looking brown, and then I might add some of that as like little stones in the path. So I'm going to go around the outside. Again, we're going to have shrubbery coming over this as well in places, so all that's going to be greenery at the top. The best thing I ever did was picking up some paints and buying those Pantone painting cards and having a go at painting. I absolutely love it now. I used to be terrified of starting anything because you do have to go through that kind of ugly stage to get to something that you like, but I understand that it comes now. It comes, it definitely gets past the ugly stage. I mean, that duck at the minute, it's looking a bit threatening. But it will come together. So with gouache, I do find working from dark to light is the best. I know it's different depending on what mediums you use. Just get that in there. So that's our initial little pond bit. All this is going to be greenery as well, so we're going to have greenery at the bottom, greenery at the top, but because I'll probably have some little bits of grass coming over onto the duck at the bottom, I'm going to put the base of the green down first, but then I'm going to paint the duck and then I'm going to pop them green bits in so we can bring them up over the top of the duck kind of thing. That's my thinking on this. So I'm just going to get an initial dark green colour down. So again, I want quite a dark green to start with, and then you build up on your lighter colours over the top. So let me just mix like a really dark green colour, and we'll just go in at the top now. Almost looks like the same colour as the stamp colour. I've got two colours for the stamp. I've been sort of experimenting to see which looks nicer. So that's the green one, and then I've got a black with these VersaFine. So that's the green one, Shady Lane, and then I've got this one here in black. So I've not decided which one I like best yet. I'll sign them as well. I'll sign some of them. So that's the top bit. And then we're going to do the same on the bottom, all the way in this little duck. So I have painted a duck before. I think it was, when was it? Oh, 2021. I did a poem. I'm not a poet. I'm really random, and sometimes I get ideas in my head and I think, I'm just going to go with that and write it down. So yeah, a poem just came to my head about my kids, and I wrote it, and then I decided to illustrate it as well. It's actually in a frame above my where I'm working right now, and I did illustrate a couple of ducks on that. So at the end I might show you if it turns out as good as the one I've done on the but the one I've illustrated on the poem is with coloured pencils. I think I did it with coloured pencils, so it is a bit different. It won't look exactly the same kind of thing. I think I've lost the shape of his head a bit there. I might have to go over the green with whatever paint I'm using for the duck. There's a lot of swans on this duck pond lately that we go to. I think the last counted about 30 swans. Well, that's a lot for swans. Don't normally get that many on there. Normally only get about 8, 10 at the most. Oh, I've dipped into the brown, not to worry. That does look like I've dipped into brown, doesn't it? Not to worry, it will be covered. It'll just look like a shadow. Told you I was chaotic. Because I'm going right to the edges of these cards as well. I'm trying my best not to sort of snag at the edges, because if I can help it, I don't want any of this colour on the back of the card, but if it goes on the back of the card, it's tough. But normally when I'm doing paintings, I do sort of a border with tape. But these little cards are so small, I just wanted the whole illustration to take up the whole card kind of thing. So being careful now at the edge, just to drag the colour right to the edges without going over. And then if you want to be super careful about not getting any paint on the back of the card, you can now you've done all the background, you can lift it off weaving wicking and get a clean scrap piece of paper. I mean, it's almost not gone on the back, maybe a little bit. We can get a clean scrap piece of paper just to pop it on. Let me grab one. My chair's squeaking, that wasn't me being rude, I promise. So let's just fold this up. Pop this card on here, and then we can start adding some details. So first off, I think I'm gonna go in with creating a bit of stonework around the path. So let's zoom in a bit because it's going to get very small. So I'm going to use a lighter brown this time, bit by bit. So I'm just going to lighten up that dark brown we used by a little teeny bit to start with, and then we'll put in even lighter on top. So just sort of, and you're just mimicking sort of stones, so that might be a bit too dark actually. Let's get some more light into it. It's not showing up the best. Let's see what this does. Oh, my brush is a bit loaded there. Let's see. Yeah, that'll do. So you just want to like mimic little stones, and they would be teeny tiny, so remember, I need to take my own advice really, but try and remember about scale, about how small you're working and how small the tiny little stones would be. This is why it's impressionism, because if I had to realistically try and draw something so tiny, it would not be happening. So you can make them rounded, you can make them square, you can do a tiny little dot, do some close together, and then maybe create a big gap. Can be very random with this. Oh, my daughter got a chosen high school placement as well. The places got offered this morning. So chuffed about that. She'll be joining one of her sisters at the same high school in September. There is a little bench around this park as well, but I'm not sure how I would approach painting a bench. I've not gone that far with my skills yet. I've not checked out a bench to see how I would paint one. So I'm just gonna have the path in there for now and some shrubbery. Maybe I'll do another one on a larger scale, maybe a Pantone painting that's a bit bigger than one of these. Yeah, maybe I'll do that again at some point. Yeah, let's not forget the bottom parts here as well. So I'm going to do the bottom bit. Do a big muddy bit there. Because it does get muddy as well, this path, sometimes. It can get really muddy. Let's dip into the paint again. This one's a bit lighter, this colour I'm going for here. I tend to paint my paintings in sections and then clip it all together and speed it up for, you know, the YouTube shorts. I kind of condense an hour's worth of painting footage into 1 minute normally. So I'm normally silent when I'm painting, so if I go a bit quiet it's just because I'm concentrating. I'm not the best at talking through when I'm concentrating, talking through what I'm doing. So I'm going in with an even lighter brown now, just to add in a little bit more. You don't have to have this everywhere, you can really randomly with this one because it is just an added bit of colour. And then the bottom. Just sort of let your hand go wherever it wants to fall. That's what I do, I shake my hand around. Shake my hand around the page and just let it dot on wherever it goes. I'll pop a bit more at the top, I think. Layer it up and layer it up. So you can go back in with all the colours until you're happy. If you want to add a bit more of the darker brown in after this, you can go back in and just carry on working it until you're happy. I'm making it a bit more muddier. That went a bit chaotic over there, like, but let's make the path wider there, and then it just looks normal. This is what I mean about my chaos. My chaos surrounding. Right, so what I'm going to do now is put in a few little details into the water. So I'm going to start off by using some more of the lighter shades of brown to go over the top to create some ripples and things like that in the water. So I'm going to start with my darkest one after the Prussian blue that we've got here. And I think I'm going to create some of them circles around the little ducklings to start with. So I'll kind of in frame here. Let's start with the first little duckling. You won't see this very brightly to start with. It's not much different. I might have to brighten that. That's too close to the Prussian blue colour. Let's get a lighter shade. Let's go back in. That's better. And just create some of them ripples around the ducks. And the second ducky. And you can bring it out as far as you want. You can have it just around the ducks, or you can bring it a bit further out. There we go, cute. And I'm going to bring in some slightly different blues. So this, I wouldn't say this is a lighter blue, it's like a different shade of blue. It's got a hint of green in it, I would say. And I'm just going to create some ripples throughout the rest of the pond and little light flashes. So you might even have as well, if you've got any overhanging bushes or trees, you might have a little shadowing from that. So once I've put in the bushes and the shrubs, I might come back to the water and just assess where I might want a little shadow of a bush or something like that. Might even want a bit of a light source. If you think it might be a sunny day and you want some light coming in over here, I might have some lighter blues over here at some point if I want to come back in with these colours. If you think about how near the pond is to your eye as well, you're going to have bigger sort of waves the closer the image is to your eye, and then smaller waves at the top, because that's furthest away from the top is at the eyes. You might have narrow, smaller little lines going on up there. I'm going to add in some more of that other blue just right here. It's just about experimenting, really. Experiment, see what looks good. When you're happy with it, you can stop. And like I say, you can come back to it as well once you put all the bushes in. You might even want to go back in with that very deep blue that we put in first, just to create some dark areas, so I might go in there. Just create a darker bit. I've gone into my silent mode now, my concentration mode. I'm gonna go dark right under the path because I'm gonna have a big shadow there from one of the bushes. I'm gonna have along there. Right, I'm going to leave it like that for now until I've put the bushes in, because I'm going to see what kind of shadows my shrubbery are making, and then I'm going to do some even lighter highlights as well. So for now I'm just going to put the bushes in. So I'm going to mix up a slightly lighter green than what we have got. And I'm going to go for the bushes. So they're going to be all around the outside here. Stay still card. And we're just going to make an impression of a bush. So we're just going to dab our brush. Basically, you can have it overhanging the path. Like say, these shrubs overhang the path and the pond on one side. Well, the local pond I go to does. So I'm just going to mimic that here. Stay still card. I'm going to mimic that on this side as overhanging the entire path on this side. Only this side though, I think, this for this one. This is where some of the ducks nest, under there. It's really cute. You get the little ducklings in the summer. I love it. And then I'm just going to do some little ones around here. A bit too much water dripped off there. You can try and lift. Dry your brush off, and then if you've got any spillages you can just lift. Just keep dabbing your brush off on a dry cloth. Will not make much difference. We'll let that bit dry and come back to it. We're gonna go all along here, maybe a bit overhanging when they've not cut back the shrubs and nettles. When the council's not been and done the job. Yeah, we'll have this one hanging over a bit actually as well on this side. Just a little bit there. Now I'm going to go in with a lighter green to add some real sort of highlights to it now. I'm just adding some water to my greens. So I'm going to use this where I think the light will kind of be hitting the trees. I'm going to have it darker at the edges, so I'm going to put even more darkness there, but I'm going to have this green overhanging this, the lighter green overhanging. Shut this there. And you're just making this impression again of leaves. I'm not going to try and attempt to do realistic leaves on this scale. So you're sort of building it up. It will look odd to start with. Dip back into that green. Yes, I'm going to go back into a darker green now to put some darkness back in. This one's not the darkest, it's sort of my mid green. Let me just wipe off that water before that falls on me again. And we're going to start around the edge of where we've put the lightest green and maybe dot a few around it to sort of merge it in there. I'm going to add a bit more around here. I'm going to add a bit more lightness as well. A bit more of the lighter green further up. And as you start mixing all your greens on your palette, you can merge all the colours together and create these new shades of green. Get them down on the page. Right, I'm going to go back in with my darkest green now at the very edges up here. You can really bring some of that back in. Some of that back in there. And there we go, so that's the top bit. So now we've got the bottom bit to do. So initially I'm going to get this duck finished first before I put this grass in, I think. So should we start the duck? Right. So I'm going to use the darkest brown we used for the path. I'm going to use for the duck's middle bit, like his breast, his chest. So I'm going to put that colour straight in there. Made him a bit wider at the bottom, but not to worry. And there we go. And then we're going to have this little line of this brown kind of going down that side of the wing, so just there. And then I'm gonna use the green that we've used for the back. Actually, this might make it merge into the background. No, I'll make it a bit lighter. I'll make it a bit lighter, then I can always add dark greens if I want to later. I'm gonna add some green to his head. Yeah, I can see where that is. But we're gonna add some details into it all, so you will be able to spot this little duck. He's not gonna blend in by the time I've finished. He's blending in for now, but we'll fix him. And we're just going to be careful around the beak and eye area. The eye doesn't matter too much, we can kind of put a black dot over green, no problem, but don't want to go over his beak. There we go. Yep, I'm going to mix up some greys now. So hopefully my white, I can get some out of my white, because I've still not ordered. I wrote myself a note to order some more white gouache and I've still not done. And now I'm running extremely low on white gouache and it's not even funny. I've got so little white gouache left. I'm being super careful with it. Super careful. So let's get this grey. Let's get this grey colour going on. First off, actually, before I put the grey in, because I want some grey on the tail, I'm just going to use a black for the very edge bit of the tail. So this bit here is sort of black with a grey stripe running through it. Let's make it a bit longer and thinner at the bottom. There, now we can wash this brush off and go in with some greys. I've just dipped my finger in a big chunk of green paint, so if I'm filthy. We do like getting mucky when we're painting. So I'm going to pop some greys in now. So we're going to go grey up to the neck. Sort of, let me turn you around. Like that. And then grey under the rest of the body. So we're going to have grey coming from down here. Oh, his belly's not dry yet. We're merging in a bit there. We're just going to take the grey around all the belly. Under there. I'll neaten this bit up after it's just bled into there a bit where it's not completely dry yet. It's a bit too much water on that one, I think. So I'm going to add a bit more grey. A bit more white into the grey, should I say. To make it a bit paler on this front part. Let's make it a bit brighter. Yeah, I'll neaten that bit up last. And then I will want eventually a white, not a white, a grey stripe going down this black bit, but I'm going to wait for that to dry first. So in the meantime, I'm going to do his little collar. So his little collar is still grey, but it's kind of a very pale grey. It's like a white grey almost. So I'm going to mix that up. Let's get that in there. Spinning round. There we go. Now I'm going to mix a colour for his little feet. So they are kind of an orangey, yellowy kind of colour. Let's get some ochre. I think it's ochre. What's it called, this colour? Drop it, Kirsty. Yellow ochre. Have some of that. I'll put that down first. I'll put the yellow ochre down first. I might add a bit of the brown into it to mute it down a little bit. Yeah, we'll mute it down a little bit with some brown. So I've just mixed yellow ochre with a bit of the brown we used for the duck. And I'll just put that down first. And then we've got the beak, so the beak is more yellow toned. So let's get this colour down on the beak. There we go. I'm going to use a bit of this as a highlight on his foot. So I'm just gonna pop a little bit in on his little tootsies. So I'm going to use the black to put the dot of his eye in as well. Trying not to breathe. There we go. That was stressful. Now once the yellow beak's dry, I'm going to pop in some black details in on that as well. There's a couple of little black details on that one. But for now, I think, is this middle bit dry? I might go back in with the greys, the light greys around the front area because it needs to be lighter. I'm just mixing up some colour. There we go. So I'm just going to go back in around the front area, add a little shadow, then put back in some darkness just on the edge. I'm going to fluff out. They have this sort of a bit of fluff hanging down from where the belly is onto the feet. Like a bit of a fluffy bit. That's neatened up a bit. I'm now going to put that line through that black part at the bottom. So it's just like a little thin line. It goes to the tip of the tail there. And then we'll go in with that black on the nose now. Hopefully it's dried off a bit, we can get away with it. So they have this sort of little, is it a nostril or a little, hang on, there's water dripping off my brush. It's the most dangerous thing. They have this sort of little nose hole there. It's like a little bit of a nostril, and then they have a black part right on the edge of the beak. So around there, I believe, and then maybe a little line around the beak like that. Little narrow line, outline in it. Like that, I think. So I'm going to let that dry before going in on the grassed area, and I'm going to go in on our little ducklings over here. So I'm going to base these little ducklings with a sort of yellow ochre colour that I had down here for the feet. So we're just going to get that initial shape mapped in with this. Oh, the water, suck it back up. I'm going to extend his little beak just to map it out where it was. There. Roughly. I'm going to neaten all this up when that water that I've just dripped on has dried a little bit. There we go, leave that there for now. I'm going to add some lighter highlights into the water while I'm just waiting for that to dry. So you can be moving around the painting, you don't have to stick in one place. As something else is drying, you can move around and move on to something else. I'm just going to add in some lighter blues now. And we really want those highlighted areas to be around the ducklings where they've sort of moved that water around. Let me add some water to this. So we'll start around the ducklings. So these little lines that we made, we're just going to highlight some of them. You can do as much or as little as you want, just make it look how you think it looks good. Add a little bit of one right under him, right under this little guy. I think that's where I want to be with that one. Now we said we were putting some darkness as well around where it's shadowed. So what I'm going to do is add some black to the Prussian blue. I've got this really dark, hopefully this will be dark enough. And I'm just going to make a sort of mark in the water that sort of imitates where the tree is. So it imitates that kind of shape from the tree. And then I'll do the same around here. There, and then I think we'll go back in with some more highlights in the water, maybe make them a little bit darker than the ones we put around there. Let's see what this colour looks like. It's alright. Go quiet again. I'm gonna add in a little bright highlight again around here. do a few like bubble type of things on the surface as well. There we go. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to go in on the details now on the little ducklings. So I'm going to go in with a sort of bit of a brighter yellow now. Do I ever put down a dark ochre type colour? I'm going to go in with a slightly lighter colour. I'm just going to pick out little areas. So these ducks are teeny tiny, and you have to remember that when they're ducklings they have a bit of fluff as well, so you might want to try and add a bit of fluff in there. So if you just fluff up the backs like that a little bit, maybe blend that in a bit more. I've got a frog in my throat. So I'll do that to start with. Just to give them that fluffy appearance. And then I'm just going to pop in the detail on the beak to start with. So I'm going to use a brown. So the top of the little beak, let me get that water off. It's going to be a bit brown at the top. And then a bit orangey underneath. So I'm just going to get an orange tone. And I'm just going to sort of mix in a bit of the orange into the ochre to just dull it down a little bit. I don't want it to be bright orange, but I do want it to have an orange tone to it. So then the bottom bit of the beak, this is teeny tiny. Just peeping their arms out there. And then we're going to add some browns. So I'm going to add a bit of ochre into my brown so it's not as sort of rich. The brown's more like a yellowy brown. Because we're going to add a bit into the little duckling. You know, they have that sort of brown sort of fluff. Let me clean my brush off. They have that sort of little bits of brown fluff in patches. So they're sort of a bit stripy, aren't they, little ducklings? So any on the face, they've kind of got this little stripe going from the head there, like a line from the head to the eye, like that. And then they've got a sort of a bit of a darker collar, which I'll pop in a minute, around the neck. Well, let's just get some of that real nice brown colour in to start with. I'm going to pop a bit more yellow back in up here, sort of mix it up. I'm going to use a darker brown now for the little collar part. I've just dipped into blue by accident instead of black. What are we doing? So I'm going to use a dark brown to very carefully pop in a little collar with the dark brown. It's a bit of a find where the neck is. Pop in that. And then we've got to pop him in a little eye because he doesn't have an eye right now. So we need to go back into the black, and this is going to be super tiny. You want the tiniest little dot around where the eye would be. So about there. Look at them ducks. I'm just going to go back in with my dark brown and just try and neaten up this little one's beak, make it less up. Oh, I knew that was going to happen. Not that much, we don't want that much. I've got a bit of a dodgy beak situation going on. I'm just going to bring this yellow up here a bit more. Needs a bigger head, I think. A bit of a bigger, fluffier head. That'll do. I'm leaving that duck. I'm leaving that duck. I'm going to move down to this little ducky down here. Again, just for a second. So I'm just going to neaten up his bit in the middle here. Make it a bit wider there. That's better. Add in a bit of this brown around there. There we go. And then I'm going to pop in all the grass details now around the duck at the bottom. So we're going to go in with some slightly lighter greens. I'm going to start off with big grass strokes at the bottom. So right at the bottom here we're going to start off with quite big ones. And just kind of bring your paint up there. It's kind of gone on the bottom a bit. I might have to turn around and do it that way. We're upside down for a second. Gonna bring some of the grass strokes right up as well over the path. Like I say, the council hasn't been out to cut this grass back yet. We've got nettle situation. I'm gonna pop a few little grass strokes from the bottom of our little ducky. And now I'm gonna add some lighter greens. I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow to my green just to give it that kind of, I don't know, more yellow green than bright green. I'm gonna add some grass in with this colour now. So you might want thinner strokes with this lighter colour, it's entirely up to you. I love how this has turned out, super cute. Let's go over to the other side in a minute. I just want a few that have got a different direction going in on them here. Sort of fill some gaps in. And I'll go for the other side. Just gonna pop a few darker ones. There we go. I'm just going to neaten up his back just so it looks like he is in front of the grass and not behind it. So let's neaten up that back area. Need the black there for his other little bit of tail. There we go. I think I'll add a bit of a highlight onto his head. You know where they have the shiny bits on the head? Might be nice to get some metallic green, maybe. Maybe put a little line on his head. I'll dull it down a bit. I'm not sure I liked it so bright. Then I'm gonna pop in the teeniest, tiniest little dots in his eye. And I think I'm gonna leave it at that. So I'm gonna move that. I think I'm gonna leave it there. I'm not gonna mould it anymore. I can mould and mould and mould with a painting till the cows come home, but I'm gonna leave it at that, I think. So it doesn't take long for acrylic gouache to dry, which is what I love about using acrylic gouache. It's just an added bonus. So I think we're near enough dry on here now. I'm gonna put my little stamp on the back. So it's cute, this stamp. It's just arrived today. It does look a bit messy, but it's my little YouTube logo. So I've just got this VersaFine ink as well that I'm using. So I'm just gonna, I'm still learning how to use this thing, but I'm just gonna press onto there, and then let me check we're the right way up. I don't want to go upside down, and then I'm just gonna pop it there, and there we go. That one didn't look as good as it did on the side of my paper, but you get the idea. And then I'm going to sign it anyway. I'm going to sign it as well for a little added touch, if I can find the pen that I like signing with. Let me just check this is working at the side of me. Yeah, it's working. So I'm going to sign it as well. Oh, I am tired after that. I'm tired. So I'm just going to put my little signature here. And then we're in 2024 now, aren't we? 2024. My gosh. 2024. There we go. So I'll let all that dry. How cute is that though? It's not quite put the last letters on there. I need to work with it. I need to have a practice with it. But how cute is that? And I'm going to pop it into one of those, when it's dry, when the ink's dry on the back, I'm going to pop it into one of these little card sleeves that you can get for these cards as well. So these, I think there was about 100 on YouTube for about £4 or something. It might have been £3.99 actually. They're really inexpensive. And I keep all my paintings in there. Where is it? I keep them all in the little things, then it protects them. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the messy process anyway. Like I say, I normally do it in my own time because I do kind of go into a sort of mindless, not talking, concentration mode. I'm not really good at painting and talking at the same time, but I really wanted you to see how I create my paintings, from the sketch to the messy parts to the finished piece. So yeah, if you did enjoy this video, please hit that big thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye everyone.